Alright everyone, so the next pattern that I'm going to show you how to do is Hollibaugh, and Hollibaugh is actually named after Holly Hollibaugh, who is the woman who came up with this Zentangle pattern. So because Zentangle is something that is kind of like a company, Zentangle.com, they have different books and different artists who are certified Zentangle teachers who have come up with patterns and steps on how to do them. So this one right here is Hollibaugh, and that's the one that we're going to work on next. So I want to mix it up. I don't want to put it right next to it. I'm actually going to do Hollibaugh inside of this part of the Zentangle. So to get started, I'm picking up my mechanical pencil, and I've already decided what part of the string, what part of my Zentangle tile I'm going to do Hollibaugh in. So Hollibaugh starts by working around the outside of the string with these crescent moon shapes that are covered in an aura or a bubble. So I'm going to get started in the pencil, and I'm going to start by drawing my crescent moon shapes. They can be touching or they could be separated. I actually want to put a little bit of space in between them. Maybe some of them you want to make larger or smaller. Maybe you want to alternate the sizes. So I just want to create these little crescent moon shapes going all around my string. So now that I have drawn these crescent moon shapes and I've planned them out kind of where I'm happy with them, what I'm going to do now is pick up either my pen or my Sharpie marker. I'm actually going to use the Sharpie marker again just because I like that rich black hue that I'm able to achieve, that rich dark value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just trace what I did so far, and I'm going to fill in the crescent moon. So if you look inside of this pattern, what I'm going to wind up doing is filling in this crescent moon. Don't worry about any of this other stuff right now. We're just going to trace what we drew and fill in the crescent moon shape. So if you want, you might trace the entire string first and then go in, or fill it in as you go. And if it helps you, you can always rotate your paper. While you're working. You want to be gentle to your hands. You want to be gentle to your materials. So I have the whole outline of this section of the string trace, and now I'm just going to go in and fill in all of these crescents. Right now I'm actually sitting in my dining room at the table with the window open. And as I'm coloring, I'm listening to the sound that the marker makes as it scrapes across the paper. I can hear the birds outside. I can hear somebody mowing their lawn. And I'm just not rushing, I'm just enjoying my journey. So now I have finished shading in all of these little crescents. And next we're going to add an aura to our crescents. So what we're going to do is we are going to kind of create a bubbling effect going around our crescents, going all the way around. And then we're going to layer on top of each other to fill in the space. So I'm going to do this in pencil first, and then I'm going to go back to the marker because I want you to understand the fundamentals of how the Hollibaugh pattern, how the Hollibaugh Zentangle is drawn. So I'm going to start nice and close to that crescent shape at the corner, going up and around. So I start at the corner and I go up and around. If your crescents are touching, that's okay. If your auras start to touch, that's okay. So that's actually what's going to happen over here. So I'm going to turn my paper around. I'm going to start to draw my aura, and as my aura crosses over, I'm actually going to use my imagination to bring it back over. So this is like drawing behind. So these kind of are creating that optical illusion effect that one thing is in front of the other. And it might happen again here. Right there. All right. So now I'm back at the beginning, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my direction because I want to make sure that this looks the way I want it to. So I decided to change direction, start working backwards. So now Zentangle is like following a set of rules to make a drawing. That's the way that I see it. I'm following a set of rules created by someone to make this pattern drawing. And we don't have to always follow the rules 100%, but it's a place to get started. I'm actually gonna just keep working, going across. And there's really no more room for this one. I really like the way that this area looks right there. That looks great. I love that pattern. The way it looks like they're overlapping. starting to get really full. So for this last intersection, what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide what will I do in this shape here. I'm not sure. While I'm thinking, I'm going to switch back over to Sharpie marker and I'm going to trace over all of the design I did in pencil. So I have this shape here that's kind of empty. I could keep going, but I kind of like how it's got this like leaf shape and there's like this inner center. So I'm gonna just start tracing the pencil that I did, and I'm gonna think about what I want to do here still. Maybe I want to do a variation. Maybe I want to do some shading. I'm gonna think about it while I start using my Sharpie marker to trace. Maybe I'll fill it in with a color. Maybe I will shade it with pencil. Right now, I'm focusing on tracing what I did in pencil. What I like about Zentangle is that it is repetitive and there's kind of like a sense of relaxation inside of the repetitiveness, because I kind of know what to expect because I've been working on the same pattern and the pattern has a set of rules. So as you're following the rules for the pattern, it gives me a moment to relax because I know what I can expect from the pattern because I'm following the rules. And I'm still rotating my paper because I want to be gentle to my hand. I want to be gentle to my marker. So when I'm tracing, I'm using the tip of the Sharpie marker, but I'm using such gentle pressure. I do not want to jam the tip of this marker because if I do that, then my line is not going to be so fine and detailed. And part of the detail in a Zentangle pattern while you're working is having that difference between filled in and fine line. So I want to be able to keep my Sharpie marker in shape. I want it to have this nice point so that I can continue to have these fine lines in my drawing. Almost done, and I still haven't made up my mind about what I want to do in the middle. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put cap on my marker and I'm going to look at the 2 times that I've done this Hollibaugh pattern. So on this small tile, what I did was I just kept going and kept going until I ran out of room. And on this one, I started to overlap them, and then in the middle I did a zigzag version of the Hollibaugh. So instead of using a curved crescent moon, I used a pointed triangle shape. But what I think I'm going to want to do on this one is I think I'm going to want to do some shading work because that's kind of what I was thinking of when I was working and on my own Zentangle patterns that I like to do. I really enjoy doing this kind of shading and stippling. So what I'm going to do is I am going to leave all of this alone. I'm not going to shade inside of any of those crescent shapes. But what I am going to do is I'm going to use the pencil to fill in this whole area. And then around the edges, in these little crevices, I'm going to shade also. So just like when we did the checkerboard, I'm going to try and think of a way to change the rules a little bit to make it more of my own project, to make it something that I'm really excited to share with people, to be like, yeah, this is my version of Hollibaugh. It doesn't have to be exactly like the true version. I can make a variation. I can make a change to make it unique, to make it my own. So while I'm shading, one of the things that I do while I'm shading is I actually like to hold the pencil far away from the tip. And the reason that I like to do that is because it's more gentle on my hand and it's more gentle on my pencil. So if you notice that while I'm shading with the pencil isn't leaving a mark in the paper downward. Like sometimes when you're writing in a notebook and you go to the next page, you can still see an impression of the letters that you've drawn. While I'm holding the pencil far away like this, it's applying such gentle pressure that it's being kind to my paper. And I'm going to change the direction a little bit. And you can see that as I change the direction while I'm shading, the lines are disappearing. Okay, so I also said I was going to go in these little crevices and I was going to shade. So I'm going to shade in this little crevice at the bottom. You might not have any spaces down here or in the corners, and that's okay because everybody's drawing is going to be unique. I could have, if I wanted to, kept drawing these auras around my crescent moon, but I chose not to, and I'm just enjoying the process, filling in, shading, drawing, being kind to my materials. I don't, do I? I'm going to fill this one in. Yeah, that needed to be filled in. I wasn't sure. Okay. So now I've shaded this in. I can use my finger again to blend, or I could use a paper towel or a tissue, but I want to add that soft blending look. And then I said I wanted to add stippling, so I added these little stippling marks here. I'm actually going to just use the Sharpie marker, and when I'm doing the stippling, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start stippling more around the edges and then lighter in the center. So what I'm going to do is being really gentle with my Sharpie marker. My Sharpie marker is actually barely touching the paper. Look at those tiny dots I'm able to make. And the tip of my marker has not been jammed in. So I'm focusing on the outer edges, going around. I might turn my paper as I'm working. Now you don't have to add stippling. You could fill in this whole area with something else. Maybe you want to color it solid with a marker. Maybe you want to add stripes inside of the auras. Maybe you want to fill in the auras with pencil. So when you're stippling with the marker, you want to be super gentle. You don't want to press hard because that's going to mush the tip of your marker. And that's not a good look. That's not showing care and respect for your art materials. Sharpie markers are actually kind of expensive for what they are. There's other brands of markers that have nice, fine, ultra fine tips. Like actually, I was really impressed when I opened that Le Pen marker that it was not a plastic tip, it was metal. It reminds me of some of the actual Zentangle kit pens. So Zentangle actually partners with certain brands to bring you their materials, And some of the brands they use for the markers are Sakura and Micron. They actually came out with kits that came with new size Micron pens. So I'm not too particular about a specific brand, but what I might be particular about is the size of the tip of the marker. So even though these dots are really small, there are markers that have a finer tip than this. So if you are really interested in fine line work using different kinds of pens and markers in your drawing, you might want to look into some of the brands that Zentangle actually uses, like Sakura or Micron, because those pens are made with archival ink, which means the ink is not going to fade over time, and you're able to get much more detail, more control over the size. So if you're using stippling, you might want to have really small dots in the center, which is going to be kind of hard to do. So the way I'm going to actually achieve that effect is just by spacing out my dots, because I only have this one sized marker. So all the dots are really the same size, but I might be adding more stippling around the edges to make it closer together, to make it appear as though it's darker. My hand is not tired. My marker is not bashed in. I'm just enjoying stippling. All right. I think a few more stippling dots couldn't hurt. And then I'm actually going to go again around the outside. So you can see that as I'm stippling, what I'm doing is I'm creating value. Instead of using a pencil for shading, so you can see how it's getting lighter in value. So even though I shaded that whole section with one value with the pencil, I'm using the stippling with the black marker to create more depth in my value. Okay. Feeling good. I'm liking the way that this is looking. Okay. So now that I've done all of this detail, I'm looking back here and I'm going, wow, this is kind of boring. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to pencil, and I think I'm going to try and think of a way that I can add some kind of detail in here. So I'm not sure whether maybe just like I can see the pencil mark is throwing me off, so I'm going to try erasing that first. So inside here I can see where my marker and my pencil, they weren't right on top of each other. I'm going to actually erase that, and that's actually making me like it better. Maybe that's why I was just thinking that it didn't look like it was being paid attention to. And if you notice when I'm erasing, I'm not rubbing and scrubbing the whole area. I'm being very deliberate with my eraser. And I'm going in the direction of the line that I'm trying to erase. Yeah, I like that. I'm okay with that now. Doesn't bother me so much. Although, I don't know how I'm going to feel about it after I keep working on the next pattern. So far, we have created the checkerboard, we've created Hollibaugh, and there's only 2 patterns left. We have Knightsbridge and we have Tibble. So I'm going to show you how to make one of those patterns in the next video.